So today I want to talk about a very grave issue that we all face here living at the Abbey. And I think this is actually an issue that people all over the United States face, and probably in other countries too. And our abbess, Venerable Children, she takes this issue very seriously. So much so that she made an announcement this morning at our community meeting. I'll speak for myself, but after that meeting, I found that my mind was very disturbed. And as I sat down to revise my BBC for today, the issue kept coming up again and again in my mind, and I really couldn't concentrate. So, can anybody guess what issue I might be talking about? Okay. I gave a preview to Venerable Sepul. Yeah. So the issue is knapweed. And the concerning part is actually not the knapweed itself, but my reaction to word about the knapweed. So if anybody watching online is not sure what knapweed is, it's a particularly noxious weed that depletes the soil of nutrients and it kills all the plants around it. But chances are, if you've been a supporter of the Abbey for any number of years, you've heard us talk about knapweed, and maybe you even had the chance to pull some yourself. So I heard that when the Abbey first opened, the grounds were completely covered in it. But thanks to the valiant efforts of many people over many years, now there's only a few stray plants or a few stray patches, at least in the areas immediately surrounding the buildings, not farther in the fields. So at the Abbey, we like to use weed pulling as a metaphor for working with our minds. And a marathon session of weed pulling takes mindfulness, patience, fortitude, all those qualities that we need for watching our minds and for applying the antidotes when afflictions like greed, hatred, or delusion arise. And no matter how many times we pull weeds each season, we find that next year they're back again, sometimes even within the same year. So this is a long-term commitment that we need to make to both getting rid of the weeds and getting rid of our afflictions. And this is actually not the BBC I had prepared to give today. I had something completely different. But my very wise and kind office mate, Venerable Jampa, gave me this wonderful idea to talk about my experience with the knapweed this morning. So I will credit any amusement out of this that comes out of this to her. So today is a flex day at the Abbey, and this means that instead of our usual 6 hours of offering service, we get to use that time to do very important things like catching up on studying and preparing for our classes and retreats. We visit doctors and dentists, and most importantly of all, we do things like cut our toenails and sleep, take naps. We still have to do things like go to morning and evening practice, which I guess is okay. But we also have to go to meals. That's also okay. But the dishes, and we're also supposed to do our chores on Flex Day. I think that's like, I don't know about that. To me, Flex Day always means nap day. And this is because I'd say about 50 to 75% of the time I feel really tired and like I need a nap. And I think the Dharma way of talking about this condition is the laziness of procrastination. But I personally have no problem justifying this need as a valid human right. I mean, look at Asia. The entire continent has built napping into their daily schedules. And that's the same place that Buddhism has flourished. I mean, draw your own conclusions. So I was already bummed that part of my flex day was going to be taken up by preparing for this BBC. So when Venerable Children asked the community this morning in a very sweet but clearly assertive way to go out and pick some knapweed behind the teacher's cabin in the lower meadow because they're about to go to seed, the words, "You gotta be kidding me," flashed through my mind. in bright neon colors. So now I'm getting to the actual topic of my BBC, which is why living at the Abbey is so challenging and so provocative, but at the same time so precious. And one of the most challenging things I found about living at the Abbey is how things change at the last minute. And recently I saw that sometimes plans are purposefully not made in advance so that we can all drive ourselves crazy at the last minute running around trying to figure things out. Uh, I think this is part training, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, that's coming. So I think this is partly due to living in a community where thankfully everything is not dictated from above by one authority, and there's space for everybody to suggest ideas that could shift how things unfold. And there's definitely a mind training aspect to unpredictability. And Venerable Children is excellent at deploying this tool at what seems like the most inconvenient times. I think that coming to terms with unpredictability can help us achieve our higher spiritual goals as well. In Buddhism, we're taught that the way to end suffering is to understand how things actually exist so that we can create the causes for happiness and stop creating the causes for suffering. And the ultimate way that all things exist is a lack of any inherent existence. But conventionally, things exist as dependent arisings. And this means that there's a lot, unthinkable number of causes and conditions that come together to produce any given object. And on top of this, most of the objects that we encounter on a daily basis are always changing, they're impermanent. And this is because the causes and conditions that created them are also changing and impermanent. So I've found that having to deal with all the last minute changes at the Abbey, having so many people involved in making decisions, to be a firsthand lesson in interdependence and impermanence. Because it reminds me again and again that I am not the commander of the universe, and that there are many other beings and events going on around me that are way beyond my control. So in order to tolerate living in this kind of environment, I've had to build more flexibility, space, humility, and tolerance in my mind. Or else I might have found myself running down the hill wanting to go move into a prison or a dictatorship where things are more predictable. But even more relevant for me at this stage of my practice is the many opportunities for practicing generosity that the Abbey provides. And Venerable Samson gave a very nice motivation before our meeting today, this morning, that encouraged us not to take care of just ourselves on Flex Day, but to take care of others as well. And I have to admit that another "you gotta be kidding me" sign flashed through my mind at that time. But at the same time, I knew that what she was saying was true and valuable. And I have this experience a lot living here, hearing good advice, but then cringing because my self-centered mind does not like to hear it. So I'm happy to say that despite my addiction to napping and my instinct to guard my precious few moments of personal time and space like a starving wolf guards freshly killed prey, due to the encouragement of my teacher and fellow wise practitioners, I found myself out in the field this morning pulling up the little purple flowers. It was actually quite nice to be working alongside the other 3 nuns who were there, which I think are clearly Venerable Children's best students, in addition to me, because they follow her guidance just right away. And even one of the cats joined us until she got lost in the tall grass, and Venerable Yeshe got nervous and put her back inside. So I got a good dose of fresh air, sunshine, and exercise. But most importantly, this exercise or this experience proved to me a few things. The first is that addictions to napping and other kinds of lounging can be broken. Deeply ingrained tendencies to cling to predetermined plans can be overcome. Tasks that don't sound enjoyable can actually be made enjoyable, depending on the mindset that you bring to them. And also that I think I made a good choice to live and ordain at the Abbey. And the Venerables, of course, made a nice offer letting me live here. because it provides so many opportunities to serve other sentient beings and to develop a more generous and caring heart. So despite feeling pushed around most of the time, a lack of control over my time, and feeling disoriented by all the last-minute requests, I know that learning to step outside my comfort zone and to be flexible is what will enable me to be able to keep a steady and joyful mind, regardless of the situation that I'm in. And taking joy in being of service to others is also another wonderful ability to have. And the endless offering service opportunities at the Abbey definitely provides this as well. So this ability to keep a flexible, open, kind heart is useful at any time in our life, but particularly at the time of death, when it becomes just how clear how little control we have over our material circumstances. And I'm hoping that as I'm dying and my elements are dissolving one by one to each other, the knapweed plant will not be the last thing that appears to my mind. But I am grateful for the plant reminding me that letting go with an open heart is the surest way to a meaningful life and a peaceful death.